It's Hi from Vignacourt again. We're here at the cemetery. We've just laid crosses at the 16 Queenslanders who are buried in the cemetery. And in a few days' time on ANZAC Day, every one of these graves will have a cross that you guys have made to remember these soldiers. All 500 soldiers in this cemetery will be remembered by you guys, and it's a wonderful tribute to you to have prepared a cross that will go in each one of these graves, and they'll all be remembered for the sacrifice that they laid, which we remember on ANZAC Day. Here we are in Vignacourt Cemetery, and again we say lest we forget. The cenotaph here, "Their name liveth forevermore," will be the main site for the ceremony on ANZAC Day here in Vignacourt Cemetery. And there'll be flags, there'll be a bagpiper, there'll be the ode read and a few other things, but this will be the centre of cemeteries all over this part of France that represent that. As you drive through the countryside, this is what you see. You see cemeteries like this in little corners everywhere that represent those who have died. And when you look here, and you can just imagine the number of young men that died during the Great War, it's quite incredibly and so sad, lest we forget. The only one of its kind anywhere in France of a French soldier looking over the graves. It says "Brothers in Arms," and they remember the British, Australian soldiers who have given their life for others, always looked over by the French soldier. This is the railway line where most of the soldiers would have come in to the battlefields. It shows again straight through to here, and this is where they would have come in during the Great War. The soldiers would have come in on here, and behind here is where the clearing stations were. This massive field here is where everything would have been set up behind Vignacourt for the soldiers. There would have been the two clearing stations were here. There was an airport for small planes. There was a tank regiment here, and all the soldiers would have been bivouacked or camped here with everything that they needed. Thousands and thousands of soldiers that would have come in. They prepared here. This is where the camp was, behind the lines of Vignacourt. They would have prepared here and then moved on, be taken away to the various areas that were the battlefields. But then they came back to here, and as we saw in the cemetery, many of them lost their lives here. They were trying to be saved at the clearing station hospitals, but unfortunately they weren't, and then they were buried in the cemetery. The Vignacourt behind the lines scene, which is an important story of the Great War that is quite often forgotten, but it's a story that tells a lot of what happened, not just on the battlefields, but on the areas behind the lines. Imagine the trains coming into here with all the soldiers on them and departing with the sick to take them back to the hospitals. These are the very train lines that would have taken them back there from the area out here where the base would have been set up. This is the old railway station. It was here. This whole area was the station area. And again, you can imagine this is where the soldiers would have come in on the trains, and this is where they would have been dropped off. But this is the railway station. Today it has a different use, but imagine this in 1918 as the railway station, where everything else would have been happening in this little area with soldiers coming and going.